I'm Chris Louderback. You may know my name from the videos I've done before for the village. And I told Tim I was going to come on Friday, but it rained like crazy, as you know, to do a sort of what's the village like opening weekend under Corona. But what I appreciate is if you could tell me a little bit about the house first.
Okay.
If I can see the kitchen, what would I see?
There's an 18th century cooking fireplace. It's notable because it's a good deal wider and deeper than the 19th century cooking fireplaces. And the brick or bake oven is not off to the side like it is at Powell or Rich or any of our other houses with brick ovens. It's in the middle of the back. The opening is for it. It's an 18th century fireplace. What happened is, where this building was originally, there had previously been another farmhouse, an earlier farmhouse. It burnt down and the chimney was left behind, so they just built the house up around the chimney.
Ah.
This happened quite a lot. I mean, chimneys survive wooden houses with great frequency. In fact, it's notable that when Sherman marched through Georgia, he left behind any number of smoldering ruins with chimneys sticking up.
Ah, a little interesting side note. Thank you.
Yes. Okay.
As you can see, what normally would be accessible for the full room now is roped off and guided so that you just keep maintaining a path through. You see this on both sides. Normally you could wander much deeper into the individual rooms. This being the pantry, I'm assuming, for the kitchen.
It's much bigger than the 19th century cooking fireplaces. It's a good deal wider, a good deal broader. You almost could, in fact, roast an ox over it. And instead of having a brick oven, the opening for the brick oven on one side or the other, like you do in the more modern 19th century ovens, it's over the middle of the back. That thing down there is what's called a tin kitchen or reflector oven. That's what's used to do Thanksgiving turkeys and things like that, for roasting meat.
And what would this have been?
It's just a closet.
Ah.
We've got stuff hidden back there for when we do junior apprentice programs, but that's another story. That's modern stuff.
Tell me, the junior apprentice program, that was also curtailed this year?
Canceled entirely.
Canceled entirely. So many things, unfortunately, but that's the way a village right now has to operate.
Well, we weren't 100% certain we were going to get the one we could open at all.
And
that's the back or out kitchen. That's where the laundry would be done. That's a wash. This house is unusual in that it has a well actually in the house.
Ah.
That was unusual. You don't have indoor running water in farmhouses at this point, to put it mildly. It's weird. Plumbing is a matter of where as well as when. The first municipal water system in the United States was built in Philadelphia in 1804. In the 1970s, my grandmother on a farm up in central northern Minnesota still had outhouses. She had electricity, but she didn't believe it was proper to have the facilities in the house.
tell me a little bit about this building and a little bit of what it's been like this weekend, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure. Well, in more or less words, this is the Benjamin House. And this is kind of the house I kind of find that is famous for its living situation. Like, kind of contrary to the Kirby house across the road or the Leighton store down the main square that had maybe 2-3 people living in it for a pretty good size. This building had 10 people living in it at any time. This being the master and his wife, their 4 sons, a great aunt, and aside from that, a couple of total strangers. For example, there were 2 day laborers who lived, that were unnamed, upstairs. And in a situation that I think we could definitely stand to look into a little more, a woman named Mary Reeves. And she lived in this room to the left, immediately. And she got there by the way of a lottery system that put paupers in buildings based off anonymous bids. Essentially kind of the community giving anonymous numbers to who was called the master of the poor. And then whoever gave the lowest number to the master would have the pauper living in their house for a number of years. So for example, Mary Reeves lived in this house, I think until her death. She was 80 years old, on a weekly allowance of 65 cents.
Oh.
Just for a number.
And that was the sum total of all the contributions from the other people who
Oh, not quite.
added up to 65 cents, or?
Oh no. Like everybody gave one number.
Ah,
And whoever gave the lowest number would either, I guess, be encouraged or be the ones to house the pauper in their house.
plus they'd have to supply the 65 cents?
Oh no.
No.
I think that was by the way of the local government.
Ah,
It's, unfortunately, not much is actually looked into or recorded about it. But it was an interesting kind of program that was in place at least.
and I'm going to walk through the house a little bit, but tell me something about the rooms that are in there.
Alright, well, this building is pretty straightforward. Immediately walking in and to your left, there are 2 bedrooms. The first of which is the aforementioned Mary Reeves, and the one immediately after that was owned by Aunt Asenna. And now, one thing I neglected to mention was that this is not the first Benjamin house. There was one Benjamin house before this. This was built in 1829. But before that, there was I'll call it a William Benjamin Sr., a great also grandfather, who had a house just like this one that unfortunately burnt down. And this was built in its place. And he said, either way in his will, that his daughter Asenna should be allowed to live should be allowed to live here as long as she was able to. Then aside from that, immediately to the right is the basic parlor room. Following that, in the main hallway is the sitting room that connects to the master bedroom, a pantry and a closet. And in this closet, actually, to the far side wall, in the very top shelf, is a sword that belonged to William Benjamin Sr. from his terms in the War of 1812. And then beyond that, unfortunately, it's just the kitchen in the way back.
Okay. Is portions of the house now closed off that weren't closed off before?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
This is pretty much the same, just a few more reachable items moved away.
Ah. How did if he had 4 sons living, where did the 4 sons wind up bedding down, do you know?
Well, they actually slept, I believe, either in the same room or on the same floor as the day laborers who lived upstairs.
Ah, so there's accommodations above.
Oh yeah,
Ah.
there would be, but unfortunately this building was never restored to upstairs.
Oh. I want to say thank you. How have you found today in terms of visitors? Have you spoke to a lot of people and explained the house to several, or has it been? Tell me a little bit about who's been coming and how many.
Well, also, it was actually pretty surprising that it's about the usual that I expect from day to day. Maybe more so considering it's the opening weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, with the virus going around, it's a little more, I guess, awkward giving a demonstration without any visual aids. But otherwise, it's been a good number.
Ah, that's great.